Check. Hey guys, what's up? Okay, so I'm a little sick right now, so I'm not gonna go too crazy with this. I had to sit down with my wife and we talked about PlayStation Now because that was actually the first streaming thing that she and I both tried together. So I figured since it's been a few years now, we would try it again and then talk about it and discuss on how streaming has come a long ways since its first conception. So after this intro, we're going to jump right into it. Alright, so you kind of did the PlayStation Now for the most part.
Yeah.
And you just got done playing.
Yes.
How did you feel it went?
It wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad?
No, they've improved stuff since the last time we played it.
Okay, but last time we played it, we were using mobile hotspot.
That is, were we using mobile
Yes,
hotspot?
yes, we were using one of our T-Mobile lines.
I thought we still had Wi-Fi at that point.
No.
Okay.
I don't know why we thought it was a good idea, but we did that.
No, it was terrible.
So, I mean, I will give it, it was a better loading, the loading times were better, and the experience in general was better than what we had last time.
Yeah.
But that's not saying much.
No. But they did change the loading sequence.
The loading? Oh, yes, they did.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes from the last time we played.
PlayStation Now is a pretty good and stable streaming service. And what I mean by stable, I mean the resolution isn't the greatest. Some people claim it's at 720p, but I would even say it's lower than that. The resolution is awful. In talking to my wife, she says the same thing. And in fact, it might actually hinder the PlayStation Now service. I will say the one thing that stayed the same was the resolution.
Yeah, no,
I know we've mentioned it off air a few times, but that was one of the things I kind of hated about the PlayStation Now is the resolution is absolute garbage.
it's terrible.
If that's 720p, then I don't want to go back to that era.
Yeah, no.
I think that was the weakest point of the PlayStation Now.
Yeah, because even the Stadia has better quality.
Oh, yeah. But
And you're still streaming.
Yeah. However, that latency is probably the best out of all the other ones that I've tried out. Microsoft xCloud and Google Stadia don't even come close when it comes to latency. PlayStation Now is probably the best when it comes to that. The input lag is actually pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's probably the best out of all three. I don't know. You didn't really play the Microsoft one.
I haven't played the Microsoft one. I only
but
did
you did play Stadia quite a bit.
Yeah. So, there is a little bit of input lag with the Stadia, but even then, it's not that far behind PlayStation.
The Stadia?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't think so. It still seems pretty smooth for the most part.
However, I've noticed through my gameplay while playing Borderlands, because I was trying to find something that's more action-packed, wish they had Call of Duty. I couldn't find Call of Duty on the list as of today. But through my playthrough with Borderlands, I noticed that there's a really bad frame droppage, which is kind of disappointing, especially with it having such a low resolution. You'd think it'd be fine. So me trying to shoot enemies, even though the latency was pretty good, occasionally the frame would drop and it would still throw me off. So for me, I was like, ooh, you're kind of disappointing me, PlayStation. You almost have it. I almost want to say that if it wasn't for that frame rate droppage, that'd actually be a pretty solid streaming platform. But that actually hinders it almost just as bad as having input lag. You played PlayStation Now a lot more than I have. But I noticed during my play experience, there's a lot of frame rate drops. Did you get that a lot or no? Which, it almost made it just as bad as bad latency. Because I'd be trying to aim at an enemy, and the frame rate drop would kind of throw me off a little bit.
I don't know if I really noticed it. The only issue I had as far as anything was when I played Elder Scrolls Online, because once you start getting into all the other players and everything, it starts lagging.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which is weird because you'd think a streaming service wouldn't have that kind of issue.
You would think.
You'd think the game and the server would be one and the same.
Yeah, but it's not, because I had better chances with the PC and Xbox with Elder Scrolls Online than I did with the PlayStation. It wasn't nearly as bad.
Now, you might be asking, is there a good selection of games? And yes, actually, PlayStation Now actually has a pretty good selection. And I would say it has probably the biggest selection of games as of today. Microsoft's xCloud is pretty up there too. Google Stadia, even though they have made announcements saying, hey, we're going to be coming out with more games in the near future, as of right now, recording, they're still behind in that. Now, it's good to remember that PlayStation Now and Stadia are the only ones currently out of open beta. So that means they're the only platforms that you can truly say this is how it is today. Whereas Microsoft's xCloud is not quite released and is still in closed beta. My goodness, my throat. So if I was to stack it up against all the other platforms, how does PlayStation Now compare? It does all right. So in latency, here's how I'd put it. I put PlayStation Now, Microsoft xCloud. I keep saying Xbox xCloud. No, it's Microsoft xCloud. And the reason why I put Microsoft xCloud right below it is because after using an Ethernet connection, I finally got it to work. The input lag was gone. It was amazing. Now again, I haven't tried the Stadia in a mobile platform because I do not have a Pixel device, as some of the comments out there notified me. They're like, hey, you can play it on mobile. Well, I don't have a Pixel phone, so I can't test that. But after using an Ethernet connection to try and put it on par with the other streaming platforms, the I did it again. Microsoft's xCloud is, I would argue, better than Stadia. However, when it's in wireless mode, it is at the bottom of the list. So it would basically be PlayStation Now, and then depending on the platform you're going with, you would go with Microsoft's xCloud and then Stadia. Stadia is a hit or miss. So they have the high frame rate, which is a lot better with input lag, and then the high resolution setting. And the high resolution setting really hinders the input lag for the console. Not every game has those settings, and that's where it's kind of iffy about putting those two. They're side by side on my list, and they can flip flop back and forth depending on the settings that you have or the conditions that you're in. Microsoft's xCloud, while mobile, is the worst when it came to latency.
Was it?
It was really bad. Although I just now got the Ethernet jack to work, and the latency was probably up there with Stadia, maybe a little bit better.
Okay.
Which is kind of sad because that means Stadia is probably the worst with latency. But like I said, that was while it's wired up.
Right.
When it's wireless, it's definitely the worst. Now, I complained about the resolution being a big issue with PlayStation Now. The cool thing about it is you can actually download the games on your console so you can have the better resolutions. But I feel like with a streaming platform, that's kind of an unfair advantage. We're comparing the streaming services, not really the, hey, it's downloaded here, you can do. I don't know. I kind of just threw it on the side. I didn't even bother checking the download version to see how well it performed. And even if you, even though that option's there, not every game supports the ability to download onto your console. So in this review, I'm just talking about just streaming in general, and I'm trying to put it in the best conditions possible. So with PlayStation Now at the top of the list of input lag, what about the resolution? I would argue, no, I wouldn't even argue. Google Stadia is at the top, okay? That, hands down, after looking into Microsoft's xCloud and having that video stretched and seeing how good the resolution is, I found that it wasn't quite as sharp as Stadia. I know a lot of people complain out there that, hey, Stadia is false advertising. I know a lot of people out there are complaining that Stadia is false advertising about their 4K resolutions. And even though I can't really test that myself, I did note that it is far superior in quality. Microsoft's xCloud is kind of under it. I would argue it's probably about 1080, but even then, there are times where the resolution drops a little bit and it gets kind of grainy, versus PlayStation Now is the absolute worst. I don't even know, I don't get why PlayStation Now doesn't unlock the ability to have higher resolutions. Why is 720p? I've seen 720p, and there's some pretty good quality 720p out there, but on my TV, it looked like 480p. It was really bad. So you wouldn't recommend the PlayStation Now to anybody, or?
I think as long as you're not playing, MMOs and are okay with not as decent resolution, you'll be fine. But
which is funny because normally you would think quality's not everything, but in this case, it really does hurt PlayStation Now.
It does, because they've worked on getting 4K and everything.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a step back. Even the Stadia has better quality,
Oh yeah, but
and you're still streaming.
yeah. I think PlayStation, as far as I know, they limit it to a very low quality resolution.
Because they want you to download the game or buy it.
Yes,
likely.
although that's what's cool about the PlayStation now is that you can download it if you want.
Only some of them.
Only certain ones, yeah. Or you can just stream it. But I feel like that kind of platform should be mainly for streaming.
Yeah.
And it was weird because when we tried playing one of the games, it was like, hey, if you want better quality, download it.
Well, they say that on all of them. When
Do
you
they say that on
start
all of
when
them?
you start them all up, like it says if you want.
I just recognized it on the ones, but I don't think Borderlands said it. Or did I?
You might have missed it.
might have
I don't
missed
know.
it? Okay.
Well, no, I think it's only on certain ones.
Huh.
Maybe.
But
So-
Borderlands was still crap quality.
It wasn't really that great to begin with.
I mean, this was the first one. I didn't bother going through
Yeah.
the pre-sequel because I didn't want to go through the cutscene again.
We could talk about content because I know that's a big one when it comes to deciding on which platform to go with. PlayStation Now, I mean, obviously is your best bet as of today. They have a massive library of games. Microsoft's xCloud is not even out yet, although they do have a pretty good sized library. Google Stadia is lagging a little bit behind. I know they announced that they're going to be coming out with more games, but their library is it's weak. It's really weak right now. I put PlayStation Now, Microsoft, Google. Like I said, these platforms are still in their infancy, so it's really hard to dictate exactly how they will be within the next couple months. Like, they're streaming platforms, so all their stuff's on servers, so they can easily update it here and there, and within a week, this review would be completely pointless. That's kind of how it rolls. So I guess I'll say this. Should you invest in PlayStation Now? Try the 7-day free trial. That's what I did, and it's a good eye-opener to what is possible. Like I said, the frame rate droppage is pretty bad, and the resolution's pretty bad. But for the most part, they have a pretty good game selection, and it's nice to be able to try these things out. Okay. That was the other thing. PlayStation Now is the only streaming service that I tried where the game actually crashed. The game would straight up not reboot. Like, we exited out and went back in, and it was still just sitting there. I was like, okay, well, guess we'll try a different game then. I don't know. It was weird. None of the other ones ever crashed on us except for that one. Now, your experience may be different, but as for mine, like, PlayStation Now, I guess was the most unreliable in terms of stability. And it shows with the frame rate droppage and then the game crash. I was like, I don't know if this is really for me. And I have fiber gigabit connection, hardwired. Like, this is strictly their stuff at this point that is having issues. And it kind of disappoints me because PlayStation is leading the pack when it comes to the game console war. The other thing that I wanted to mention before I close off is that the load times. PlayStation Now load time was it was better. The first time we played PlayStation Now, it was actually extremely bad. The load times were really slow. This time it's a little bit more improved. I'm still kind of disappointed that a server-based game is still so slow. Like, I get that it probably will never be as fast as having your own hard drive. Even though the PlayStation Now isn't that bad, I still felt like it was a little on the slow side. In fact, when it was loading, I was sitting there talking to the wifey. I was like, what is it doing? Like, why is it still loading? Was it like this slow last time? And like I said, if you don't care too much about load times, maybe streaming's all right, but personally, it's not faster than having the game installed on your own personal drive at home. I don't know. Maybe a lot of people out there would think, no, duh. But to me, I'm thinking, it's a server. Like, it should be faster. Honestly, Stadia, I would put at the top of load times. And, it's funny because, like, I didn't think Google Stadia was that fast, but at least it was pretty decent. Microsoft xCloud was probably the worst. Although when I had an Ethernet connection, it was a little bit better. So I'd probably put it like Google, and then Microsoft and Sony was kind of like flip-flop. I think it depends on the game that you're selecting. There was times where Microsoft was downright just awful, and I think that's where I'd want to put it at the bottom. But then there's other times it loaded just fine, and that
that just fineness was a little bit faster than PlayStation Now. PlayStation Now has to do this like preload buffer thing, and it was kind of weird. There's a lot of it. I felt like PlayStation Now had a lot of extra loading stuff, and I'm not sure why that is. So PlayStation Now, I'd almost want to put it at the bottom, but occasionally the Microsoft xCloud was just a little bit slower. Like they flip-flop. Actually, it was Microsoft that flip-flop. Like it couldn't stay on top. Like occasionally it would be better than Sony, and then other times it'd drop down and just take forever to load. And I don't know. I don't know what that was all about. I even loaded up Borderlands, the pre-sequel. Yeah, I know. Can you tell I'm a Borderlands fan? But yeah, I loaded up the Borderlands, the pre-sequel to see how fast it'd load. And it was actually pretty quick. But like other games I'd load, it was just sitting there just taking a second. I was like, come on, are you gonna get there? But it's possible that it has my account saved on the background. And maybe it's caching some of those files. So I think when I went to do the review for PlayStation Now and then went back to Microsoft's xCloud, I think that's why it started loading faster. So you know what? I'm going to put Xbox at the bottom. Just because if you're trying to initially load a game, it's definitely going to be really slow. But like I think like after like the second or third load, I think it keeps those files on the side of the server and it makes it a lot faster to load. I don't know. It was just something I noticed, and again, like it's not like I know everything about these things. These are just me sitting there testing these things out and trying to figure out what is great, what isn't. Like I said, I'm not like testing the screen resolution or the frame rates. I'm just going off of personal experience, because nobody in the real world is gonna sit there and measure the frame rates to figure out if it's smooth or not. Like you just feel it, you're like, oh yeah, that's a little choppy. Oh, that's pretty smooth. Hell yeah. I mean, you might want to just for like benchmarks purposes, but right now streaming's still in its infancy, and I just kind of want to know how does it feel? How does it run? Is it stable? Does it crash? I don't know.
So you wouldn't like suggest anybody to get the PlayStation Now? You'd say go for Stadia, or would you say just hold off on everything?
Probably just hold off on everything until they actually improve.
Until they actually improve?
Yeah.
What, like the Stadia or PlayStation Now?
Both. More Stadia with its game library, and then PlayStation with its weird resolution.
But yeah, guys, let me know which service you want to try out. Here in the next episode, I'll be trying out the Steam streaming, and I hope that it goes as well as I think it will. Last time I tried, it was kind of iffy on a mobile network, but I've heard a lot of promising things, and I'm excited to try it out. So stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching.
Got this, man, I got it. I will not quit, I'm on it. Never profit. Got the block lit, I'm toxic. Spitting logic, make them nauseous. Honest, can I stop this? Never cautious, drop it. I'm the hardest. Knock, knock, bitch, watch it. I'm the fucking king of rock, bitch.